My mother-in-law did everything on her own. Nothing like you. My daughter laughed, and the words landed like cold water. I answered, steady and low. Then from now on I'll stop covering your bills. Let's see how much she helps. For a moment she froze. Then she asked, incredulous, "What bills, Mom?" I sat in my usual chair, the one with the patched cushion that Claire never thought to replace, my hands trembling as I cradled a glass of water. On the table beside me was the white dinner set I'd given her 10 years ago, still as spotless as the day I wrapped it. The kitchen smelled of garlic and tomatoes, but I had no appetite. My throat felt tight, as if some animal had lodged there. Claire smiled, that half-gloat I knew from her childhood, the grin she used when she thought she'd scored a point. David kept his eyes on his plate, pretending the china held his full attention. Ethan and Maya were bent over their phones, oblivious to the change in temperature around the table. "You have to understand, Mum," Claire said in that patronizing tone that had always been a small blade. "Veronica built everything herself. She started her company from nothing, travels the world, raised David. She's nothing like you." Those last two words, "nothing like you," dropped into me and echoed back, hollow and cruel. My face burned. My eyes burned, but I did not cry. Not then. Not after all I'd carried for them. I breathed in, counted silently to 3, and let the calm settle over me like a mask. "I understand," I said slowly, folding the napkin on my lap with calculated care. "If Veronica is that capable, let her support you from now on." Claire's brow knit. "What do you mean?" she asked. I placed my words crisp and deliberate, letting each one hit its mark. "I'm stopping the payments. The tuition, the car loan, the insurance, the gym membership, the mortgage, everything I've been covering. Let Veronica help you." The silence that followed was thick and sharp. David's head came up, Ethan put his phone down. Maya's face showed that small childlike alarm that still surfaced now and then. Claire went white. "Mom," she whispered. "What bills are you talking about?" 45 years old, a degree, a husband, 2 teenage children. She really had no idea. That question was the last straw. All those months and years while she praised her mother-in-law and dismissed me, while I quietly paid if the rent lagged or the tuition threatened to bounce, she had not the faintest notion of the weight I bore. I rose, steadied my old leather purse, the battered, dependable one that had been at my side for decades, and looked at her. No fury, only disappointment, and a steel she'd never seen. "You'll find out," I said softly. "Ask the bank. Ask Veronica." I left without looking back. My footsteps were unhurried, echoing down the hallway. As the elevator doors closed, I heard Claire call, "Mum, wait." I didn't. Not then. Driving home that night to the little house I'd paid for on my own, every brick set with my own labor and thrift, a thought crystallized in me. Being invisible had never meant being weak. When an invisible woman finally refuses to be invisible, the earth shifts. My name is Margaret. I am 68. My hands are rough from a lifetime of work, but my heart is stubborn and steady. That dinner was not an end. It was a beginning. 20 years I piled bricks for her comfort. I was the foundation she stood on and didn't see. Why did Claire's words cut so deep? Because she never truly knew me. No one did. I had faded into the background of my own life through silence and sacrifice until my daughter assumed I merely existed. When Peter died, I was 35 and Claire was 12. It was the sort of drizzly morning that seems to warn you. Peter left to make a delivery for our small stationery shop on the north side of town. 2 hours later, the phone call split my life. Accident, brakes failed. He was gone. I remember the closed casket, the overpowering scent of white lilies, Claire clinging to me, my black dress soaked where she held on. I stood there unable to cry. Not because my heart was stone, but because if I began it would drown me. After the funeral, Peter's accountant came with a folder that felt heavier than any coffin I'd seen. Debts, overdue rent, unpaid invoices. Negative $34,800. I remember the white of those numbers as if they were a verdict. Collapse or rise. I chose to rise. I took over the shop, learned to haggle with suppliers, to create spreadsheets, to wake at 5 to check inventory before Claire left for school. My hands grew calloused carrying boxes. My back ached from standing, but I did not stop. Every sacrifice was because of her, because I wanted my child to have something better than the life we'd had. When Claire announced she wanted to study business administration, the tuition was $1,800 a month. 4 years. Over $85,000. I said yes. I worked harder. I turned the little shop into a distribution business, landed contracts with nearby schools, refused vacations, denied myself small pleasures. At her graduation, I sat in the last row, wearing the same navy dress I'd owned for years, crying with a tangle of pride and exhaustion. 2 years after that, she wanted an MBA. $42,000. Go ahead, I said, and I found a way. At her wedding, I paid $120,000 toward the down payment on their condo because I wanted her to start life with fewer burdens. You don't have to, Mum, she told me, eyes shining. I hugged her and whispered, I want you to begin debt-free. 3 years later, I bought her a car for $68,000, paid outright. Stocks, emergency savings, gone into the key turned by her happiness. Never once did she ask, Are you okay, Mum? Do you need anything? I became the invisible benefactor, the magical account that fixed everything. She never asked where the money came from, until I withdrew it. When I finally said no, instead of gratitude, Claire compared me to Veronica, the perfect, self-made mother-in-law. The truth about Veronica, what I later discovered, would change everything, but at that time it was only another sting. Veronica's name first reached me 3 months after Claire and David started dating. Claire came home breathless, eyes bright. Mum, I had lunch at David's. His mother is incredible. Incredible. I forced a smile, pinning my surprise under a small explanationless pride. She owns a cosmetics company, Claire told me, swiping through images. Look, this is their office. She built everything by herself, after her divorce. I did not begrudge Claire admiration for anyone, but the way she said it cut because it was admiration I'd never heard when it came to me. When I met Veronica at the engagement party, I saw why Claire worshipped her. Confidence poured from that woman. She moved as if the room owed her attention. 64 she might be, but she looked 50, salon-perfect hair, designer clothes, a faint expensive perfume. She kissed the air near my cheeks with a practiced politeness that left me feeling seen only as a formality. Margaret talks about you so much, she said. Such a present mother. The word present carried a weight I could not place then. Time allowed Veronica to take up more of Claire's life. Weekly lunches, shopping sprees, weekend escapes to a beach house in Florida. When babies came, Ethan and Maya, Veronica arrived with an imported crib costing thousands, designer clothes, toys more glamorous than practical. I bought the diapers, paid for insurance, took care of medicine and the dull, unseen necessities. Claire came home exuberant from Veronica's, telling me about her latest trip to Paris, the wine's worth more than our rent. Each story was an unspoken comparison. Veronica traveled, I stayed. Veronica wore silk, I sewed hems. At family lunches, Veronica's soft jabs came wrapped in gentlemanly concern. Margaret, you work too hard. Don't you take time for yourself? She asked once. As if hardship were a choice. As if I delighted in the grind. The cruelest words came at their house one evening, 2 years into Claire's marriage. Veronica said aloud the lesson she'd refined into a sermon. The greatest legacy we can give our children isn't money, it's example. Independence. Self-made success. Claire glanced at me for a second, and I saw a flicker in her eyes that looked like shame or disappointment. The implication cut like a sharpened blade. I, her mother, had not been an example worthy of admiration. But Veronica's perfection was not what it seemed. I didn't learn the full truth until later. In the beginning, I was still the invisible mother, dimmed by the glossy light Veronica radiated. The fog lifted only when I finally had the courage to strip the shine away. On a clear Friday morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The words, "she's not like you," looped in my head like a broken record, lodged in the groove of hurt until a different feeling surfaced. Anger. Not the roaring, destructive kind, but the precise, sharp kind that delivers sight and purpose. By 6 I had coffee and my old laptop. I began to list every automatic payment, every transfer, every expense I'd quietly handled. My hand shook, but not from fear. I wrote, private school tuition, family health insurance, the condo loan, the car, condo fees, groceries, gym membership, Ethan's English classes, Maya's ballet. I added them up, payment after payment, month after month, and the total shocked even me. Hundreds of thousands. I had been, effectively, a walking ATM. I called the bank and cancelled every automatic payment. The clerk hesitated. "Ma'am, are you sure? This could be a mistake." "I'm sure," I said. The hot water in the shower that morning washed more than physical fatigue away. When I stepped from the steam and looked at myself in the fogged mirror, the woman who stared back had silver hair and years etched at her eyes. She looked older and braver. "I am not invisible," I told my reflection. "I let people treat me that way." At 10 I met Ruth at our usual cafe near the distribution warehouse. Ruth had been my friend for 3 decades, present before Peter died. She laughed when she saw my face. "You hit the lottery or you did something big." I stirred the cappuccino without tasting it and told her everything. The dinner, Claire's words, the money I'd poured into their life, and how I'd cut it off. Ruth was silent, then laughed, a bright, free sound. "At last," she said. "I thought she'd keep taking until you were gone." I said I felt stupid, but she replied gently, "You were a mother. Mothers give everything." Then she said something that lodged in me. Giving everything can become self-destruction. The sentence stung because it was true. In my devotion, I taught Claire a dangerous lesson, that someone else would always cover the cost. "So what now?" Ruth asked. "I won't say a word," I said, steady. "I want to see how long it takes before they notice the tap has run dry. Maybe she'll go to her prized Veronica." Ruth's grin widened. "This will be entertaining." I smiled too, but not with vengeance. What rose in me was not greedy retribution but a hard sort of justice, the resolve to make my daughter stand on her own 2 feet for once. I gave Claire 3 weeks. 3 weeks until the first bill came due. I would not gloat. I only wanted truth to do its work. 22 days later the phone rang. Claire. Instinct made my heart leap at the sight of her name. I answered, pretending to be calm as I scribbled inventory figures. "What is it?" I asked. She stammered. "The school called. Tuition was 3 weeks late and there'd be a penalty." "Didn't you have automatic payment?" I asked. In her mind, money still arrived on command. "I did," she said, then confessed in a small, panicked voice that I had cancelled it. Silence crackled. "You cancelled it?" she asked, helpless. I replied simply, "I did." She began to cry, begging. "They'll suspend the kids' records." My chest ached at the thought of Ethan humiliated, of Maya missing the class she loved. For a flicker I almost relented. But I remembered her smirk and the years I'd been unseen. "Claire," I said, "you're 45 with a degree and a husband. Tuition is $3,200 per child. You and David can't manage $6,400 a month for your own kids." Her voice blurred. "We're tight on money, Mum." Then came an almost casual admission. David still owed his mother for the car loan Veronica had helped with. My skin went cold. Veronica had lent with interest. "How much?" I asked. Claire hesitated and then admitted to 2 loans, the interest charged at 5% per month. The realization that they were paying Veronica while I had been silently paying the rest for years made my chest constrict. "Then call her," I said. "Borrow more if you must. Learn the financial responsibility she preaches." Claire began to plead. I hung up. The feelings that followed were messy. Pain, fury, relief, and a trace of guilt. But I had made a choice. I would not take back what I had done. I would not carry their neglect any longer. I had given them 3 weeks. Time, as it often does, began to reveal the truth. 2 days after that tense call, Ruth's cousin Nora, a waitress at an upscale downtown restaurant, sent me a message. "Your daughter is here, with that blonde woman you showed me. They look serious." My stomach tightened. So Claire had gone to Veronica, just as I expected. I texted back, "If you can hear anything, let me know." Nora replied, "I'll try." Their tables by the counter. For 20 long minutes I sat with my phone in my lap, unable to concentrate on the shipment forms before me. Finally her message came, a long one. According to Nora, Claire had arrived first. She looked anxious, tapping her fingers on her wine glass. She only ordered wine when she was truly desperate. Minutes later, Veronica strolled in, perfectly put together as always. Flawless highlighted hair, navy dress with a tailored fit, expensive perfume that announced her presence before she spoke. She sat down with an air of superiority, as though the chair had been waiting specifically for her arrival. Their conversation drifted from small talk, the kids' after-school activities, David's job, trivial things, until Claire finally gathered the courage to speak. "Veronica, I need help," she said, voice tight. Veronica smiled the way a cat does when it's already claimed the mouse. "Of course, darling. What is it?" Claire explained, haltingly, painfully, that I had stopped paying all the bills without warning. That she and David were drowning. Tuition, car payments, fees, overdue notices stacking up. "I need 8,400 by Friday," she whispered, twisting her napkin. "Just to stay afloat." Veronica took a long sip of wine, savoring the moment rather than the taste. She looked at Claire the way someone looks at a child who's made a predictable mistake. "I see," she said, syrupy sweet. "But surely it's time you and David learn to live within your own means. You are adults, after all." They were the same words I had spoken, but from Veronica's lips they carried cruelty, not wisdom. Claire tried again, desperation rising. "It's just a rough patch. Once David gets his promotion." "Claire," Veronica interrupted, setting her glass down sharply. "Your mother pampered you too much. That's why you're struggling now." When I read that line in Nora's message, something inside me cracked. I spoiled her. I ruined her. After I had given up nights and years and dreams? Claire pressed on. "Please, Veronica. Just this once." Another pause. Veronica opened her designer purse, pulled out her phone, and tapped away while Claire sat frozen, waiting for salvation. Finally Veronica sighed as if performing a monumental act of grace. "I'll transfer 2,000. That's all I can spare." 2,000, when Claire needed more than 8. Claire's voice dropped to a whisper. Is that all?" "Sweetheart," Veronica cooed, "I have obligations too. Investments. Expenses. And I'll need it back in 30 days, with the usual adjustment." 30 days. 5% interest. 2,000 would become 2,100. I had given my daughter hundreds of thousands without blinking, asking nothing in return, not even gratitude. This woman asked for interest on a few crumbs. Claire accepted, devastated. Veronica then spent the next 20 minutes lecturing her about responsibility, independence, and the dangers of relying on others. Each word was another small stab. Each comparison was another reminder of the pedestal Claire had placed Veronica on. When Nora finished recounting everything, I set my phone down and simply sat. For nearly an hour. No tears. Just a quiet collapse inside me. Claire had gone to that woman for help. And Veronica had given her just enough to maintain power, and taken even more pride in doing so. But something didn't make sense. Veronica claimed she couldn't spare more due to business restructuring. The excuse felt too polished, too rehearsed. A thought sparked. I called Ruth. "Do you still know Morris?" the accountant who handles those cosmetics companies? Ruth replied, yes. Why? I need you to look into something. Not revenge. Truth. I wanted to know who the woman my daughter idolized really was. 2 days later, Ruth called. Her voice was urgent. Margaret, sit down. I did. She inhaled sharply. Veronica is a fraud. The world seemed to tilt. She explained that Morris had pulled records and spoken to suppliers. Natural Glow, Veronica's company, was drowning in almost $900,000 of debt. Just shy of $1 million. My breath caught. How could a company whose products line drugstore shelves be collapsing? Terrible management, apparently. And one more devastating truth. Veronica had not built the company. She had inherited everything from her father, Eduardo Fisher, a cosmetics magnate with factories and distribution lines established decades earlier. I remembered seeing his name on plaques in her office but never thought much of it. Veronica hadn't built anything. She'd burned it. In 2019, she opened 3 luxury boutiques. Spent hundreds of thousands on renovations, furniture, staff. The sales? Half of what she projected. All 3 stores closed within 3 years. Bankruptcy across the board. I took notes. 3 store failures. Supplier debt. Bank loans. Lawsuits. Employee complaints. Ruth continued. Her apartment? Rented. $3,800 a month. 2 months behind. I felt a strange mix of shock and revelation. And the car? I asked. Still owes $78,000 on it. Designer clothes. Installments. Jewelry. Installments. Credit cards. 4 maxed out, revolving debt around $20,000. Piece by piece, the illusion crumbled in my head. The glamorous life Claire admired was built on crumbling credit and desperate performance. Even the beach house she flaunted? Not hers. Borrowed from her former sister-in-law, who lent it when she wasn't in town, while Veronica posted pictures claiming ownership. Print everything, I told Ruth. She laughed. Already emailed it. I opened my email. 15 files. Articles, statements, screenshots, legal notices. One headline screamed, Natural Glow shutters luxury stores after $1.2 million loss. I spread the papers on my dining table, organizing them like a case file, because it was a case. A case of deception. A case of false idols. A case of my daughter's blind admiration. Ruth asked, what are you going to do? I didn't answer right away. Anger rose first, the old kind, bitter and sharp. But then something calmer settled over me like dusk. Purpose. I'll hold on to it, I said. For now. Ruth groaned dramatically. Margaret, that tone means you're planning something. I smiled faintly. I just know the truth matters. My daughter needs to see who she's comparing me to. That night, I gathered all 15 documents into a large brown envelope. I divided them into sections. Debt. Lawsuits. Liabilities. Illusions. Lies. Every sheet had weight. Every number had meaning. Claire had been worshipping a glittering cardboard cutout. But I didn't do this out of vengeance. I did it because truth is sometimes the only way to heal a wound that's been festering for years. The next morning Claire texted, Mom, I paid half the tuition. Veronica lent me the rest. Kids won't be embarrassed. Lent. At interest. I saved the message, another piece for what was coming. Because a decision had crystallized in me. Soon, I would invite them all to dinner. Claire. David. The kids. And Veronica. A dinner where truth would take the head seat. A dinner where masks would fall. A dinner where I, the invisible mother, would finally be seen. But first, I needed the stage set. The timing right. The facts sharp. And when everything aligned, I would strike not with anger, but with clarity. Because real justice isn't loud. It is simply undeniable. And the time was coming. 63 days after the night Claire had thrown those careless, cutting words at me, the moment I'd been preparing for finally arrived. It was a Saturday afternoon. The house smelled of cornbread, my mother's old recipe, the one with just a touch of anise. I wiped my hands on my apron and hurried to the door, expecting Ruth with the bromeliads she'd promised to bring. But when I opened it, Claire stood there. She looked nothing like the polished, confident woman who had mocked me over dinner months earlier. Her hair was pulled up hastily, strands escaping everywhere. Her clothes were wrinkled. Her face was bare, no makeup to hide the sleepless nights she'd lived. Dark circles clung beneath her eyes like bruises. In her hand she held a bouquet of roses wrapped in silk paper and bound with a gold ribbon, the kind that cost far more than she could spare. "Hi, Mom," she whispered. Something inside me tightened. A familiar instinct tugged, the mother in me who had always rushed to soothe her child. But I kept my posture steady, controlled. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. She entered slowly, her eyes wandering over my home as though she was seeing it for the first time. Which, in a way, she was. In the past few years, she had visited only a handful of times. Breezing in, breezing out, always too busy, never fully present. "Sit," I said, gesturing toward the sofa. "Coffee?" "No, thank you." She perched on the edge of the couch, clutching the roses to her chest as though they might shield her. "I brought you these," she said. I took the flowers gently, then set them on the coffee table without looking for a vase. My silence did more than any speech. "What do you need?" I asked. She swallowed. "Mom, please sit." I sat across from her, hands clasped. She took a breath, then another. Looked at the floor, then the ceiling, then her own trembling fingers. "Anything but me. I came to apologize." "About that night?" I asked. "When you laughed in my face. When you said I'd done nothing with my life." She winced. I was overwhelmed. I said things I didn't. "You said exactly what you meant," I said calmly. "People don't accidentally reveal the truth. They accidentally hide it." Her eyes filled instantly. "Mom, please don't say that." I was influenced. Veronica talks so much about how she built everything herself. And I believed her. "You believed her," I repeated softly. "And you compared me to her. You decided I was lesser." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I was wrong. I know that now. I'm sorry. Truly." The room went silent except for the quiet ticking of the clock. "Why are you really here, Claire?" She froze. I asked again, more direct this time. "How much do you owe?" Her shoulders dropped like she'd been struck. "About 27,000, she whispered. "In 2 months." She nodded. "Show me." Hands shaking, she unlocked her phone and handed it to me. Red numbers filled the screen. Tuition, $6,400. 2 months overdue. Credit card, $4,830. Car loan, $3,700 behind. Condo fees, $1,780. Supermarket line, $2,010. And the last entry. Fisher, V. $2,100. "What is this?" I asked. "The money Veronica lent me," she whispered. 2,000 principal. 100 interest. Due next week. I looked up at her, my voice steady. "Veronica disappointed you." She didn't answer, but her silence did. "You went to her. You begged. She humiliated you, didn't she?" Claire covered her mouth with her hand, sobbing. She told me, my mother spoiled me," she choked out. "In front of everyone. She said I was weak." Every word was a knife to both of us. "You came here for money," I said finally. "No," she protested. "I came to apologize." She exhaled sharply. "But yes, I also need help. Mom, The school is threatening to cancel the kids' enrollment. Ethan's devastated. Maya had to quit ballet. Her voice broke. My heart ached, not for her, but for the children, for the lives affected by the adults' choices. What do you want me to do? I asked. Help me, please. Just this once. I promise I'll change. Promise what? I asked. That you'll respect me? That you'll be grateful? That you'll stop comparing me to anyone who looks shiny and impressive? Mum, I'm not like that. You are, I said, my voice trembling for the first time. You only remember me when you're drowning. She looked away. When was the last time you called just to ask if I was well? I pressed. Not for money. Not for help. Just to hear my voice. She said nothing. When, Claire? I don't remember. I nodded. Exactly. I stood. She watched me, scared of the verdict she felt coming. You're 45 years old. You have an MBA. A job. A husband. You earn more than I ever did at your age. And yet you cannot manage your household. I know, she whispered. No, I corrected gently. You don't. You have never known hardship. You have never known sacrifice. I sheltered you so completely that you grew blind. Her tears fell harder. Mom, please stop. I raised a hand. You told me Veronica built everything on her own. Well then, Claire, now you can too. Her face crumpled. So you want me to fail? You want my kids to suffer? I want you to grow up, I said quietly. I want you to understand that respect is not born out of comfort. It's earned. She exhaled shakily and stood, grabbing her purse. So that's it. You won't help me. Good, I said. Then you will learn. She stepped back, stunned. You've changed, Mom. No, I replied, my voice like steel wrapped in velvet. I simply stopped being invisible. She left. And for the first time in many years, I did not chase after her. 3.5 months after that conversation, the day finally came. I had spent the entire week preparing, scrubbing the house, polishing every surface, laying out the beige linen tablecloth I saved for special occasions. I went to the market and bought filet mignon, potatoes, asparagus, even a bottle of red wine more expensive than any I typically bought. Chocolate cake ingredients for the grandkids. The total came to $340, paid by me, with my own earned money. On Thursday, I recorded a voice message to the family group chat. Hello, everyone. I'm inviting you all for dinner at my house this Saturday at 7 p.m. Claire, David, Ethan, Maya, and Veronica as well. I have something important to say. I hope you all can come. 10 minutes later, Claire replied, Why is Veronica invited? You'll understand that night, I wrote. David texted, We'll be there, Mrs. Margaret. 2 hours later, Veronica responded, Well, what a surprise, dear Margaret. Of course, it will be an honor to attend. An honor. She had no idea. Saturday. I dressed simply but elegantly. Black slacks, my white silk blouse, silver earrings. I looked at myself in the mirror. Silver hair loose. Wrinkles softened by time and truth. A woman who had made peace with her own strength. Today, I told my reflection, the lights turn on. David arrived first with the children. They hugged me tightly, and I held them longer than usual. How I had missed them. Ethan had grown taller. Maya sported a new haircut that made her look older. Claire arrived next. Alone. Tense. Eyes darting around the room, unable to be still. And at 7:15, the doorbell rang again. Veronica entered wearing a royal blue dress, heels that clicked sharply against the floor, and enough perfume to announce dominance before she spoke. Her smile was polished, her posture regal. Margaret, she said, sweeping her eyes across my modest home. Everything is so quaint. You keep it all very simple. How charming. Thank you for coming, I said. Please, have a seat. I served dinner, filet mignon, roasted potatoes, sautéed asparagus, salad, wine. For 20 peaceful minutes, conversation stayed light. Veronica bragged about a so-called business trip to Colorado, a lie. I knew better. The kids chatted. David complimented the food. When dessert was served, I stood. I'll make coffee, I announced. David, could you bring me the envelope from the shelf? He looked confused but retrieved it. I placed it in the middle of the table. Claire stiffened instantly. What is that, Mom? She asked. The truth, I said. Then I opened the envelope. I spread the documents onto the table, the papers whispering across the linen like the beginning of a storm. These, I said, are the records of everything I have paid for over the last 20 years. Claire's breath caught. David leaned forward. Veronica's painted smile wavered. I lifted the first sheet. Claire's college. $85,000. Her lips parted in shock. Her MBA. $42,000. She covered her mouth with her hand. The down payment on your condo. $120,000. David's eyes widened. A shudder rolled across the table. And the car, I continued. $68,000, paid in full. I could feel Veronica stiffen beside Claire, a woman watching her carefully constructed image begin to crack. I laid down receipts, bank transfers, notes of automatically drafted payments. 4 years, I said quietly. I covered tuition, health insurance, grocery shortages, memberships, fees. Every gap you had, I filled. My voice didn't shake. It didn't need to. In total, Claire, about $150,000 in long-term support. And with additional monthly expenses I handled for you, altogether, over $735,000. Claire sank into her chair, shaking. Mom, I didn't know. I didn't know it was that. You didn't know, I said gently, because you never asked. Her tears fell silently. Maya reached out and held her hand. Ethan stared at the table, stunned. Then I pulled forward the second stack, the real storm. And now, I continued, turning toward Veronica, let's talk about the truth behind the woman you've been compared to. Veronica's eyes flashed. I won't tolerate lies, Margaret. There are no lies here. I placed the documents before her like a mirror she could no longer avoid. You inherited your cosmetics company from your father, Eduardo Fisher. You didn't build anything on your own. You inherited it. A tremor ran through her poised facade. And you mismanaged it so badly it's nearly $1 million in debt. Claire's head jerked up. I dropped another paper. Supplier lawsuits totaling $890,000. Another. Store closures after $1.2 million in losses. Another. Employee complaints of unpaid wages. The sound of each sheet hitting the table was like a gavel. Veronica stood abruptly. This is outrageous. What's outrageous, I replied, is that you belittled me for years while living off illusions. Pretending you were a self-made woman. Pretending you were the model of success. I pointed to the final documents. That luxury apartment? Rented. 2 months behind. That luxury car? $78,000 owed. Designer clothes? Installments. Credit cards. Maxed out, more than $12,000 in revolving debt. Her hands trembled. Her jaw locked. You are not wealthy, Veronica, I said, my voice soft but sharp. You are drowning. But instead of humility, you've chosen arrogance. Instead of honesty, facades. And instead of helping your own son, you charge him 5% interest to keep up your fantasy. Veronica's mouth opened, but no words emerged. Rage and shame fought on her face. I will not sit here and listen to this, she hissed. That's your choice, I answered, gesturing to the door. She snatched her purse, nearly dropping it, and stormed out, her heels stabbing the floor like accusations. When the door slammed shut behind her, silence wrapped around the room. David ran his hands over his face, stunned. Ethan and Maya stared, speechless. Claire sat shivering, her tears falling unchecked. I turned to her slowly. "Now," I said gently, "you see who truly built everything from nothing." After Veronica left, the room felt wounded, raw, cracked open. Ethan broke the silence first, his voice shaky. "Grandma, you paid for everything? Even for us?" I nodded. "Because I love you." "But why didn't we visit more?" Maya asked, her big brown eyes shimmering. "Why didn't we come see you?" I knelt beside her. "Because sometimes, sweetheart, when you love people deeply, they forget to love you back. Or they assume you'll always be there." It wasn't anger. It was truth softened by sorrow. Kyle, quiet, thoughtful, asked, "So, Grandma Veronica wasn't honest?" David answered before I could. His voice was thick with shame. "No, son. She wasn't." He turned to me then, eyes full of shame and apology. "Mrs. Margaret," he said quietly, "I didn't know. I thought my mother. I really believed." "I know," I said softly. "You believed her because she made sure everyone did. Appearances can be powerful." He nodded, defeated. "I'm so sorry for the way she treated you, for the things she implied. I should have defended you." "I'm not angry at you," I said. "Each of us is responsible only for our own choices." Claire finally lifted her face. Her makeup smeared, her eyes swollen. She looked 10 years older. "Mom," she whispered, voice trembling, "you paid for everything." "Yes. And I never once asked how you managed it. I just took and... She broke. I sat beside her. Not out of duty, but out of love that was bruised but not dead. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "I gave you everything I had because I wanted you to have a good life. But in doing so, I never taught you the most important lesson." "What lesson?" she sobbed. "That nothing is truly yours unless you earn it." She clung to me suddenly, kneeling at my feet the way she had as a child. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I was cruel. I was blind. I compared you to her when you were the one who actually did everything. I'm ashamed." I lifted her chin. "I don't need your shame," I said gently. "I need your growth." She nodded through tears. "I'll change. I swear. Tell me what to do." I stood and walked to the kitchen, retrieving one final sheet of paper. An employment contract. "What is this?" she asked, confused. "A job," I said. "At the distribution company. As a manager." She stared at the salary. 4,800? Monthly. "You have an MBA," I said. "Use it. Build something. Learn." She swallowed. "I'll do it. I'll start whenever you want." Monday, 7:30 a.m. David chuckled weakly. "You'll never see her up that early, Mrs. Margaret." "You're about to," I replied, smiling faintly. I looked at David next. "And how's the promotion?" "It's official," he said. "Starts next month. Comes with a raise." "Good," I replied. "Together, you'll earn about 11,000 monthly. Enough to live decently, if you budget wisely." Claire nodded. "We will. I promise." "Then let's start." I brought out my old notebook and helped them make a budget, cutting extras, eliminating unnecessary expenses, creating a path out of the $27,000 hole. Ethan hugged me. Maya hugged me next. "Grandma," they said together, "we love you." And like warm rain breaking a long drought, something inside me softened. They left close to midnight. Claire was last at the door. She turned back, her eyes gentle in a way I hadn't seen since she was a girl. "Mom," she whispered, "you taught me something tonight." "Oh, and what was that?" That dignity can't be bought. It's built. She paused, voice breaking. And the strongest woman I've ever known was right in front of me all along. When she left, the house fell quiet, but peaceful. The truth had been spoken. And the truth had mended what lies once broke. 6 months later, I was in the warehouse when Claire burst in with a folder. "Mom," she beamed. "I just closed a contract with the state school chain, $15,000 a month." I laughed, pulling her into a hug. "I knew you could." It wasn't the money that made me proud. It was the woman she was becoming, grounded, humble, capable. A year and a half after the dinner, on a gentle Saturday morning, I sat on my porch with coffee and my old notebook. But this time, not to calculate. To write. 12 pages filled with my life. The truth, the pain, the lessons, the resilience. Claire arrived with fresh bread. "Mom," she said, smiling, "we saved $800 this month." I hugged her, tears prickling my eyes. For a family that once owed $27,800 saved was a triumph. "Once we finish paying off the last $2,100, she added, "we're going to send you $200 monthly. As a thank you." I shook my head. "You don't owe me money." "No, Mom," she said softly. "I owe you more than that. But this time, I want to give." Later, the whole family came, Ethan with a scholarship certificate, Maya with a ballet photo, David with relief in his eyes. "Mrs. Margaret," he said, "I cut ties with my mother." I blinked. Why? I asked her to change, to be honest, to seek help. She refused. She's still living lies. "I won't raise my children in that shadow." Sadness whispered through me, not spite, but pity. Veronica's prison was built by her own pride. When Maya showed me her ballet photo, when Ethan showed me his essay, the one he wrote about me, I couldn't hold back tears. He had written, "My grandma taught me that strength isn't about never falling. Strength is standing up again and again, even when the world overlooks you." I hugged him until he laughed. That night, after they left, I finished the last line in my notebook. "They once thought I was invisible, but I was the foundation. And when the foundation finally shifts, everything rebuilds. Stronger, truer, and full of dignity. My hair is still silver, my house still modest, my hands still calloused. But now I am seen, not for what I gave, but for who I am. And that, at last, is enough."